Jennifer Mason never went on a first date without sending someone the man's photograph. Usually that person was her older sister, Emily. Jennifer would forward a screenshot of the dating profile, the name of the restaurant, and a message that always ended the same way. "If I don't call tomorrow, you know where to start." It was partly a joke and partly a habit of years of meeting strangers in New York City. Jennifer sold residential real estate in Manhattan and Queens. She regularly entered unfamiliar apartments, met clients alone, and showed vacant properties after dark. She understood that charm was not the same as trustworthiness. Then she met a Spanish man named Adrian Ferrer. He spoke softly, remembered small details, and never pressured her to meet before she felt comfortable. For nearly 4 months, they exchanged messages, photographs, and long video calls. Adrian said he divided his time between Valencia and Barcelona, where he arranged private property investments for foreign buyers. He described himself as divorced, financially independent, and tired of relationships built around convenience. He called Jennifer his soulmate before they had ever stood in the same room. In September 2016, Jennifer flew from New York to Spain to meet him. She sent Emily his photograph, the hotel address, and a copy of her return ticket. For the first week, Jennifer appeared happier than she had in years. She sent pictures from restaurants, beaches, and narrow streets illuminated by evening light. Then the photograph stopped. Her messages became shorter. A large sum of money disappeared from an account connected to her inheritance. And 30 days after Jennifer arrived in Spain, her name appeared on the front pages of several newspapers. Police had identified the American woman found inside an abandoned irrigation reservoir outside Valencia. The man she traveled to meet had vanished. But investigators soon discovered that Adrian Ferrer did not exist. The person in the photographs was a career fraudster who had used at least 7 names, targeted women in 4 countries, and learned about Jennifer's inheritance long before he invited her to Spain. Jennifer, wanneer journalisten in the river, had centered her T-koordbander verwanstelring voor finiste born to embracen. Jennifer was born in 1985 and raised in Mountain New White, New York, a full district. Her father, Richard, apprentice. Her mother, Susan, worked as an administrative assistant for a public school district. Jennifer was the younger of 2 daughters. Emily was 5 years older, more cautious, and more interested in stability. Jennifer was independent, sociable, and willing to make decisions before she knew exactly where they would lead. As a child, she rearranged her bedroom every few months. As an adult, she turned the same instinct into a career. Jennifer began working in real estate after college. She enjoyed entering an empty apartment and imagining the life someone might build inside it. She was not among New York's luxury brokers. Most of her clients were young couples, families moving between boroughs, and professionals purchasing their first homes. Jennifer was known for being direct. If an apartment was overpriced, she said so. If a building had problems, she did not hide them. Her honesty sometimes cost her commissions, but it also brought referrals. By 2016, Jennifer was earning a comfortable income and renting a 1-bedroom apartment in Long Island City. She was single and had no children. She had experienced several serious relationships, but none lasted longer than 3 years. Jennifer's friends said she wanted marriage, but feared choosing someone simply because time was moving forward. She watched other people settle into routines, purchase homes, and begin families. She was happy for them. She also felt increasingly left behind. That feeling became stronger after the death of her maternal aunt, Eleanor Mason. Eleanor had never married and had no children. She owned a townhouse in Brooklyn that she purchased decades earlier when the neighborhood was far less expensive. When she died in February 2016, most of the estate went to Jennifer and Emily. After taxes, debts, and the sale of the townhouse, Jennifer expected to receive approximately $620. The inheritance was not immediate. It moved through probate and was held temporarily in a managed account. Jennifer did not consider herself wealthy. She planned to use part of the money for a down payment on an apartment and invest the rest. She mentioned the inheritance to only a few people. One of them was Adrian Ferrer. Jennifer joined Tinder in the spring of 2016. She approached online dating with a mixture of optimism and fatigue. Her profile contained 3 photographs and a short description: real estate, old buildings, bad coffee, good conversation. On April 6th, she matched with my passport. On bateni prefer Lisabon use the resin, did idea. His photographs showed him to make soon he ate resistance. Ainked outdoor restaurantia, standing beside a stone building in Barcelona, and smiling and unbillig to soon in the star pass. Unhate his biography in prominent Vicentia. He's the faith and food opera to my 30s. He's in Spain. I've seen him free that words. Is the person who makes you stop searching. Jennifer said he missed 2 heroes. She told Emily that he looked like a man advertising expensive watches. Adrian responded to her first message in fluent English. He said he had lived in London for several years and frequently worked with American clients. He asked Jennifer about New York real estate. Unlike many men she met online, he did not immediately comment on her appearance. He asked what kind of building she would purchase if money did not matter. Jennifer said she wanted an old apartment with high ceilings, imperfect floors, and windows large enough to make rain interesting. The following day, Adrian sent her a photograph of a restored apartment in Valencia. It had high ceilings, worn wooden floors, and tall windows overlooking a narrow street. He wrote, "I think I found your place." The conversation continued. Adrian sent messages every morning and called several nights each week. He was attentive without appearing desperate. He remembered the names of Jennifer's co-workers. He asked about Emily's children. When Jennifer mentioned that her mother had a medical appointment, he followed up 2 days later. The attention felt unusual. Jennifer was accustomed to men who spoke about themselves and waited for an opportunity to impress her. Adrian created the impression that learning about her was the most important part of his day. Emily remained skeptical. She searched his name online and found a small consulting website with photographs of properties, a Spanish telephone number, and several client testimonials. The site appeared legitimate. His social media account showed years of activity. There were photographs of restaurants, business meetings, and travel. Nothing obviously suggested fraud. What Emily could not know was that most of the website had been copied from legitimate companies. The property photographs were real. The testimonials were stolen. The social media account had been constructed gradually, using images gathered from different sources and photographs Adrian took specifically to support his false identity. The man in the profile was real. His name was not. The person Jennifer knew as Adrian Ferrer was actually Tomás Villalba. He was 41 years old and originally from Alicante. Tomás grew up in a working-class family and spent much of his 20s working in hotels, restaurants, and private clubs along Spain's Mediterranean coast. He spoke English well and understood how wealthy travelers behaved. He noticed what made people feel important, remembering a wine preference, using a surname immediately, calling a person at the exact time promised. Tomás also understood that many people trusted confidence more than credentials. His criminal history began with minor fraud. He sold non-existent vacation rentals, used stolen credit cards, and created false property listings. Later, his schemes became more personal. Tomás began targeting women through dating websites. He did not ask for money immediately. He developed relationships over weeks or months. He identified emotional vulnerabilities, financial resources, and family connections. He presented himself differently depending on the victim. To one woman, he was a divorced wine exporter. To another, he was an architect managing coastal renovations. To Jennifer, he became a property consultant who understood both real estate and loneliness. Several women had transferred money to him before Jennifer arrived in Spain. A British widow gave him the equivalent of $48,000 for an imaginary investment. A French business owner lost nearly $70 after Tomas claimed his accounts had been frozen during a legal dispute. A Canadian woman traveled to Barcelona to meet him, but returned home after he became aggressive when she refused to loan him money. None of those victims knew his real name. Complaints were filed under different aliases in different jurisdictions. No one connected them. Tomas had learned that romance fraud was most effective when the victim believed money was secondary. The relationship came first. The financial opportunity appeared later, almost by accident. Jennifer first mentioned Aunt Eleanor's estate in June. She and Adrian were discussing old properties. Jennifer said her aunt's Brooklyn townhouse had sold for far more than anyone expected. Adrian replied that Eleanor must have been an intelligent woman to purchase property before the neighborhood became desirable. Jennifer said her aunt had always believed land was more reliable than people. Adrian laughed. He then asked whether Jennifer planned to invest her share. The question did not seem suspicious. Realistic foundation of their conversation was they made it on money stations. Jennifer explained that the money remained in an estate account and would probably be distributed later that year. She wanted to purchase an apartment in New York, but worried about putting everything into one property. Adrian suggested that European real estate could offer better value. He did not make a formal proposal. Instead, he began sending examples. A renovated flat near Valencia, a rural guest house outside Requena, a coastal building that could supposedly be converted into vacation apartments. He told Jennifer she had good instincts and could earn more by investing directly than by leaving the inheritance with financial managers. Jennifer was interested but cautious. She asked for ownership records, renovation estimates, and rental projections. Adrian provided professional-looking documents. Most were fabricated. Some belonged to real properties he did not represent. Others used photographs of buildings that were not for sale. Jennifer reviewed the information as she would any professional listing. She found inconsistencies and questioned him. Rather than becoming defensive, Adrian praised her attention to detail. He said he wanted a partner who challenged him. That response increased her trust. By July, their conversations were no longer limited to business. They discussed marriage, family, and the possibility of dividing their lives between New York and Spain. Adrian said he had never connected with anyone so quickly. Jennifer admitted she felt the same. She did not tell everyone about him. She feared being judged for taking an online relationship seriously. To Emily and her closest friend, Naomi Perez, she said she was talking to someone who might become important. Naomi asked whether he had requested money. Jennifer said no. At that point, it was true. Adrian invited Jennifer to Spain in August. He offered to purchase her ticket. Jennifer refused and booked her own round trip from New York to Madrid. She said maintaining control over her travel arrangements made her feel safer. They planned to spend several days in Madrid before taking a train to Valencia. Jennifer would stay in hotels under her own name. Adrian sent a detailed itinerary, restaurant reservations, and photographs of the places they would visit. He also suggested they tour one of the investment properties. Jennifer agreed, but told him she would not sign anything during the trip. Adrian said business could wait. He wanted the visit to be about them. Jennifer's departure was scheduled for September 2, 2016. In the days before the flight, she became visibly nervous. She purchased new clothing, turned half of it. She asked Emily whether traveling to meet a man from an app was reckless. Emily Emily said the risk depended on whether Jennifer had control of her passport, money, and transportation. Jennifer promised she would. She forwarded copies of her flight information and hotel reservations. She also sent Adrian's photograph. Emily saved everything in a folder. On the evening before the flight, Jennifer had dinner with Naomi. Naomi asked what Jennifer would do if the chemistry did not exist in person. Jennifer said she would spend 10 days alone in Spain and turn it into a vacation. Then she added, "But I think this is real." Adrian met Jennifer at Madrid's airport, holding a small bouquet of white flowers. He looked like his photographs. That detail relieved her immediately. Many online scams depend on avoiding face-to-face contact. Adrian was physically present, affectionate, and composed. Jennifer sent Emily a photograph from the airport. Adrian stood beside her with one hand around her waist. The caption read, "He exists." The first days appeared almost perfect. They stayed at a hotel near central Madrid. They visited museums, ate late dinners, and walked through crowded streets. Jennifer sent pictures of meals, buildings, and Adrian pretending to read a Spanish newspaper upside down. She called Emily on the third night. Jennifer sounded excited and slightly overwhelmed. She said Adrian was more serious in person, but also more considerate. He opened doors, carried her bags, and appeared to know people everywhere they went. Restaurant staff greeted him warmly. Hotel employees spoke to him with familiarity. Investigators later learned that some of those encounters were staged. Tomas had worked in tourism for years. He chose locations where former colleagues knew him, though they knew him by other names. Their familiarity made his invented professional life appear credible. On September 6th, Jennifer and Adrian traveled by train to Valencia. They checked into a hotel near the historic center. Jennifer posted a photograph from the balcony. That was the last image she shared publicly. The tone of Jennifer's messages began changing after the move to Valencia. At first, the changes were small. Adrian preferred that she use a local SIM card because international calls were expensive. He helped install it in her phone. The new number made it more difficult for friends to contact her directly. He also said the hotel was too busy and suggested moving to a private house owned by a business associate. Jennifer refused. She preferred remaining in a public location. Adrian did not argue. Instead, he became quieter and claimed she did not trust him. Jennifer told Naomi that he sometimes interpreted ordinary caution as rejection. Naomi advised her to maintain the hotel reservation. On September 8, Adrian took Jennifer to see a property outside the town of Requena. The building was a 2-story stone house surrounded by vineyards. It was attractive but partly abandoned. Adrian said the owner needed a fast sale and would accept a deposit of $35,000. Jennifer asked to meet the owner. Adrian said the man was living in Switzerland. She requested land registry records and proof that Adrian represented him. The documents he provided appeared incomplete. Jennifer refused to transfer money. That evening, Adrian apologized for mixing business with their first meeting. He said he had become excited by the idea of building something together. He told her to forget the property. The following day, he arranged a coastal trip and acted as though nothing had happened. Jennifer began questioning whether she had misjudged him or simply hurt his pride. This uncertainty was part of Tomas's method. He introduced discomfort, withdrew it, and rewarded the victim when she stopped resisting. On September 11, Adrian showed Jennifer another opportunity. This one involved a small apartment building in Valencia. He said a private buyer had withdrawn and a temporary deposit was needed to preserve the deal. The amount was $18,500. Adrian claimed he had already committed most of the money and needed Jennifer to provide the remainder for 48 hours. He showed her emails, contracts, and a banking application indicating funds moving between accounts. All were false. Jennifer hesitated. Adrian became emotional. He said he had never asked her for anything and was embarrassed that a delayed business transfer had placed him in this position. He promised repayment within 2 days. Jennifer sent $18,500 from her personal savings, not the inheritance account. She treated it as a short-term loan. The money went to a company called Levante Residential Partners. The company had been created 6 weeks earlier using false documents. Within hours, the funds moved through several accounts. They were never returned. When Jennifer asked about the repayment, Adrian said a bank review had delayed the transaction. He remained calm. He showed her another fabricated email. Jennifer wanted to believe him, but her professional instincts had begun overriding her emotional investment. She searched the company name independently. The registered address belonged to a mailbox service. The telephone number went to a prepaid mobile phone. Jennifer confronted Adrian on September 13. He said foreign investment companies often used administrative addresses. She asked to speak with his attorney. Adrian accused her of humiliating him. The argument lasted more than an hour. Jennifer later sent Naomi a message. "I don't know whether I'm being paranoid or whether I just did something very stupid." Naomi replied immediately and told her to contact the bank. Jennifer called her bank in New York. She reported concerns about the $19,500 transfer and asked whether it could be reversed. A fraud specialist explained that the money had already left the receiving account. During the call, Jennifer learned that someone had attempted to access an investment account linked to her inheritance. The login attempt came from Spain. The person entered the correct password but failed a security question. Jennifer had not accessed that account during the trip. She immediately changed her passwords. She also called Emily. For the first time, Jennifer said she was afraid. She believed Adrian had used her laptop while she was sleeping. Emily told her to leave the hotel room if he had access to it, and book the earliest flight home. Jennifer said Adrian was not with her. He had gone to a meeting. She packed her suitcase. Her return flight was scheduled for September 16, but she planned to purchase a new ticket for the following morning. At 6:12 p.m., Jennifer sent Emily a message. "I'm going to the front desk now. I'll call when I'm in another hotel." She never made that call. Hotel security footage showed Jennifer entering the elevator with a suitcase at 6:18 p.m. She reached the lobby 2 minutes later. Before she approached the desk, Adrian entered through the front door. The two spoke near the seating area. There was no obvious violence. Adrian appeared calm. Jennifer crossed her arms and repeatedly shook her head. After approximately 4 minutes, he showed her something on his phone. Jennifer's posture changed. She sat down. Investigators later believed Adrian told her he could recover the transferred money or provide documentation proving the inheritance account access was a misunderstanding. At 6:31, Jennifer returned to the elevator with her suitcase. Adrian followed. At 7:05, both left the hotel through a side entrance. Adrian carried Jennifer's suitcase. They entered a dark gray rental car. Jennifer did not appear to be physically restrained. The car drove west. That was the last confirmed recording of Jennifer alive. Adrian told Jennifer they needed to meet the accountant who controlled the disputed funds. Instead, he drove her toward a rural property outside Requena. The house belonged to an elderly relative of Tomas Villalba, who lived in a care facility. Tomas had access to the keys and occasionally stayed there. The property was isolated by vineyards and dry hills. No neighboring house had a direct view of the entrance. Telephone records showed Jennifer's phone reaching the area shortly before 9 p.m. At 9:24, she attempted to call Emily. The call lasted 3 seconds and disconnected before Emily answered. A second attempt did not connect. At 9:31, Jennifer sent a message. "Something is wrong. Call." The sentence ended there. The message was delayed by poor cellular coverage and did not reach Emily until the following morning. By then, Jennifer's phone was turned off. Investigators believe Tomas attempted to force Jennifer to provide access to the inheritance account. He already knew the approximate value. He had her passport, laptop, banking information, and personal details gathered during months of conversation. What he lacked was the authentication needed to transfer the money. Jennifer refused. Evidence recovered later showed a struggle occurred inside the house. A lamp was broken. Jennifer's blood was found beneath a rug. A section of her hair was recovered from a damaged door hinge. The medical examiner would later conclude that she suffered blunt force injuries before being strangled. Tomas placed her body in the rental car and drove toward an abandoned irrigation facility several miles away. The reservoir had once stored water for nearby agricultural land. By 2016, it was no longer in regular use. The concrete basin was partly covered by weeds and surrounded by a damaged fence. Tomas had worked near the property years earlier and knew it was rarely visited. He carried Jennifer's body through a gap in the fence and placed her inside a deep maintenance channel beside the basin. The channel could not be seen from the road. He covered her with plastic, branches, and discarded construction material. Tomas then returned to Valencia. He used Jennifer's phone to send 2 messages. The first went to Emily. "Everything okay? We talked. Staying a few more days." The second went to Naomi. "Embarrassed I overreacted. We'll explain later." The language felt wrong to both women. Jennifer rarely wrote "everything okay" without specifying what had happened. She also did not use the phrase "we'll explain later." Emily attempted to call. The phone remained off. Emily contacted the United States Embassy and Spanish authorities on September 15th. She provided Jennifer's hotel information, flight details, and Adrienne's photograph. The hotel confirmed Jennifer had checked out unexpectedly. Staff believed she left voluntarily with her companion. Her passport was not found in the room. Her return flight remained unused. At first, local police treated the matter as a missing adult who may have changed travel plans. Emily insisted that Jennifer's final incomplete message indicated danger. She also reported the attempted access to the inheritance account. The bank supplied records showing additional login attempts after Jennifer vanished. Someone tried to reset the account's authentication using copies of her passport and personal documents. The request was denied. Those attempts transformed the case from a possible voluntary absence into a suspected financial crime. Police traced the receiving company from the 100 transfer. Levante Residential Partners had no employees, office, or legitimate property activity. The identity used to register it belonged to a man who died. Hotel footage showed Adrian clearly. Yet none of the official records connected the face to that name. The passport copy he had used at the hotel was forged. Investigators released a still image to the media. Several women recognized him. They knew him by different names. A British woman living in Malaga contacted police first. She knew the man as Gabriel Montalvo. He had borrowed money after claiming his business partner died. She lost more than $3,000. A woman in Lyon knew him as Daniel Costa. He convinced her to invest in a coastal apartment that did not exist. The Canadian tourist identified him as Sergio Alarcón, a man who became threatening when she refused to transfer funds. Their descriptions matched. So did the emotional pattern. He appeared attentive, serious, and unusually interested in long-term commitment. He learned about money indirectly. He created emergencies that made financial help seem temporary. When challenged, he alternated anger with apology. Spanish investigators compared fingerprints recovered from a prior fraud complaint. They identified the suspect as Tomás Villalba. He had convictions for document fraud and theft, but had avoided prison for years through false identities and frequent movement. Police searched addresses associated with him. His Valencia apartment was empty. Inside, they found prepaid phones, forged identification cards, copies of women's passports, and handwritten notes about several victims. A page bearing Jennifer's name included NY property, Aunt estate, approx 600, emotionally close to sister. The notes proved Tomas had cataloged Jennifer's finances and relationships before inviting her to Spain. She had not accidentally revealed too much during a romantic conversation. He had been collecting information from the beginning. Police traced the rental car seen at the hotel. Tomas rented it, using a forged French driver's license. The vehicle was returned on September 15. Employees noticed mud in the rear cargo area and a chemical odor. The car had already been cleaned and rented to another customer before investigators located it. Forensic technicians recovered a small blood trace beneath the cargo lining. DNA matched a sample provided by Jennifer's parents. Navigation data from the vehicle had been deleted, but toll and traffic cameras established part of its route. The car traveled west from Valencia toward Requena. It returned shortly after 2 a.m. Police searched properties connected to Tomas. At the rural house, they found evidence of a struggle. Jennifer's suitcase was hidden inside an exterior storage room. Her passport, laptop, and shoes were found in a metal container. Her body was not there. Search teams examined wells, fields, ravines, and abandoned buildings. Dogs followed a scent from the house to a dirt track, then lost it where a vehicle had been parked. Investigators believed Tomas transported her elsewhere. The search continued for nearly 2 weeks. Emily traveled to Spain and appeared at a press conference. She described Jennifer as cautious, intelligent, and incapable of abandoning her family without explanation. She asked anyone who had seen the rental car to contact police. The story began receiving attention in Spanish and American media. Jennifer's photographs appeared beside the image of Tomas. He remained missing. On October 2, exactly 30 days after Jennifer arrived in Spain, an agricultural worker named Raul Ibanez entered the abandoned irrigation property to inspect damaged fencing. He noticed a strong odor near the maintenance channel. At first, he believed an animal had died beneath the debris. When he moved a piece of plastic, he saw part of a human arm. Police secured the area. The body was badly decomposed but still clothed. A necklace recovered from the scene matched one Jennifer wore in hotel photographs. Dental records confirmed her identity the following day. The medical examiner found injuries to the back of her head and damage consistent with strangulation. Her death was ruled a homicide. Newspapers carried her name across their front pages. The story was no longer about an American tourist missing after an online romance. It was about a woman murdered after being targeted for her inheritance. Emily learned of the identification before the news became public. This used for de l'autre man. She later said the word found had always sounded hopeful until that telephone call. Jennifer had been found. Nothing about it felt like a rescue. Tomas had crossed into France using a stolen identity. He traveled to Marseille and rented a room under the name Nicolas Vidal. Investigators believe he planned to leave Europe or approach another victim. He continued accessing dating applications while in hiding. One profile described him as a Spanish property developer who had recently lost his fiancée in an accident. French authorities located him after he used a bank card associated with one of his shell companies. He was arrested at a train station on October 11. Inside his bag were 2 mobile phones, 3 forged identification documents, approximately $114,000 in cash, and a printed photograph of Jennifer's passport. He denied killing her. Tomas admitted the relationship and the financial dispute, but claimed Jennifer became violent at the rural house. According to him, she struck her head during an argument and died accidentally. He said he panicked and hid the body. That account did not explain the strangulation injuries. It also did not explain the attempts to access her inheritance after she died. Spanish authorities returned him to Valencia. When reporters asked whether he had loved Jennifer, Tomas did not answer. The case against Tomas depended heavily on digital evidence. Dating app records showed he contacted Jennifer within hours of changing his location settings to New York. He had searched her name online before their first extended conversation. He located her professional biography, social media account, and the obituary of Aunt Eleanor. The obituary mentioned that Eleanor was survived by 2 nieces. Property records showed the value of the Brooklyn townhouse. Tomas could estimate the inheritance before Jennifer ever discussed it. His private notes documented the progression of the relationship. Trust building, family questions, investment interest, travel, September. Jennifer was not the first woman he approached through this system. Investigators found similar records for 14 potential victims. Some conversations ended when women refused to travel or send money. Others suffered significant financial losses. Jennifer became the first known victim whose death could be directly connected to him. Police also recovered deleted messages from one of Tomas' phones. Before Jennifer traveled, he wrote to an unidentified associate. American arrives on the 2nd. If everything works, the large account follows. The associate responded, "Do not create another problem." Investigators never established whether the person knew violence was possible. No evidence proved another individual participated in the murder. Tomas Villalba went on trial in Valencia in 2018. Prosecutors argued that the crime was planned in stages. First, he created the Adrian Ferrer identity. Then he identified Jennifer as a financially promising target. He developed emotional trust over several months. He invited her into a country where she depended on him for language, transportation, and local knowledge. After obtaining an initial transfer, he attempted to access the larger inheritance. When Jennifer discovered the fraud and tried to leave, he killed her to prevent exposure. The defense accepted that Tomas committed fraud and concealed Jennifer's body. It denied premeditated murder. His attorneys claimed Jennifer died during a physical confrontation. They argued that the damage to her neck may have occurred while Tomas attempted to restrain her. Forensic experts rejected that explanation. The injuries indicated sustained pressure. Jennifer also suffered defensive injuries to her hands and arms. She had tried to protect herself. Emily testified about Jennifer's final calls and messages. Naomi described the growing concern surrounding the investment. A bank specialist explained the attempts to access the inheritance account. Several previous victims testified about Tomas's methods. Their stories were different in detail, but identical in structure. Intimacy, a financial opportunity, an emergency, pressure, anger when challenged. Tomas appeared. Metas attend the inverters playing Venice the experience to is known as Clay. Si saw these teen others to Miss Rangers at from both Floratius with their rage transfer to the leaf. To vehemently made an experience, and a mess, shimmer sensed. Emerth about money ideas for pain from women. Many irregular leather nathan 600 stuffed western abortions, present a readed reps he waste hunter at the conduct. Media coverage often reduced story importy to a warning about dating applications. Tier stories to remain hermitates, similar to produce an innovation. Jennifer runs white frappadles. Near an under to add or should. Jennifer was flax degree. Hermita's naive. She traveled because months of daily communication convinced her she had found a relationship worth pursuing. Tomas did not succeed because Jennifer lacked intelligence. He succeeded because he studied the way intelligent people evaluated risk. He provided evidence before she requested it. He welcomed skepticism. He allowed her to control the flight and hotels. He waited before asking for money. He did not appear to be rushing. His patience was part of the deception. Jennifer identified the fraud once the evidence became clear. She contacted her bank. She packed her suitcase. She tried to leave. The fatal mistake was not believing him at the beginning. It was agreeing to listen one final time in the hotel lobby. Tomas knew which fear to use. Jennifer feared losing under for $18,500. She feared that she had falsely accused someone she loved. She feared returning home embarrassed. He offered a short drive and an explanation. She believed she could regain control. Instead, he took her away from the hotel. Emily kept the folder Jennifer sent before the trip. It contained the flight details, hotel reservations, and a screenshot of Adrigrend Breither Tinder profile. After the trial, Emily opened it for the first time in months. The biography still read, "I believe home is not a searching," his word once sounded placing. This added the press went romantic. Tomas wanted his victims to stop searching, stop checking records, stop asking questions, stop trusting the desperate that told them something was wrong. Jennifer eventually started searching again. She searched the company. She searched the bank activity. She searched for a way home. That decision exposed him, but it also made her dangerous to him. Jennifer's remains were returned to New York in November 2016. Her funeral was held in White Plains. Former clients, co-workers, friends, and relatives filled the church. Several people spoke about homes Jennifer helped them purchase. One couple brought a photograph of Jennifer standing inside their empty apartment before the furniture arrived. She was holding the keys and smiling. Jennifer's share of Eleanor's estate eventually passed to Emily and her parents. They used part of the money to support organizations that helped victims of fraud and families dealing with international missing person cases. Emily did not describe this as creating something positive from the murder. She said nothing made Jennifer's death useful. The donations simply prevented the money from becoming the only reason people remembered her. Tomas had viewed the inheritance as a number. To Jennifer, it represented her aunt's lifetime of work and the possibility of building a stable future. She never had the chance to decide what that future would become. Jennifer Mason traveled to Spain because she believed she was meeting a man who had spent months earning her trust. She believed Adrian Ferrer was successful, thoughtful, and emotionally available. He knew her work schedule. He knew her family history. He knew what kind of apartment she dreamed of owning. He knew about the aunt who believed property was more reliable than people. Every detail that made him appear attentive was information he could later use. Tomas Villalba did not begin with a request for money. He began with a question about windows and rain. He constructed a personality around Jennifer's answers. When she became emotionally invested, he introduced the property opportunity. When she resisted, he withdrew. When she relaxed, he tried again. The first transfer proved she trusted him. The inheritance promised a much larger reward. Jennifer's discovery of the unauthorized account access ended the version of the relationship Tomas had created. She packed her suitcase. She entered the hotel lobby. She was only a few steps from asking the staff for another room. Then Tomas appeared and showed her something on his phone. Whatever he said persuaded her to delay leaving for one more conversation. That delay lasted long enough to take her beyond the city. 30 days after Jennifer arrived in Spain, her name appeared in the newspapers beneath a photograph taken from her real estate website. The articles described an American woman, an online romance, and a body found beside an abandoned reservoir. But the story had not begun with the flight. It began months earlier, when a stranger read an obituary in New York and recognized that grief had left behind money. He found Jennifer's dating profile. He learned what she wanted. Then he became it. Jennifer had always sent her sister a photograph before meeting someone new. It was her way of leaving a trail in case charm concealed danger. Before traveling to Spain, she did the same thing. She sent Emily Adrian's face, his name, and the address where they planned to stay. The name was false. The professional life was false. The love was false. Only the face. And in the end, that photograph helped police identify the man. Only the face was real. And in the end, helped police identify the man who had spent months convincing Jennifer that he was the safest person she could trust.